Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. I'm a little draggy this morning. Not sure why, but I feel good. How
Nice.
about you?
I didn't get the best sleep last night. This dog is just a lot. She doesn't like her crate. She's got either separation anxiety or something. So, it's just a lot. It's kind of a kick in the ass, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah. How he or she? I can't remember.
She, Tina,
How old is she?
uh, not even a year. She's born in November. We got her the day after Christmas.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So she's a
That
pup
makes
pup.
sense. Still a
hmm
little puppy.
Yeah, she's a terror.
Is she really a terror, or is she just a puppy? Because being a terror.
Well, it's a good question. Maybe both, right? I mean, pets are a reflection of the training that you give them, right? And if you don't give them any, they're a reflection of that as well. So, um, we're trying to do it the right way, but it's a lot of reinforcement, and it requires everybody in the household and all those
Mm-hmm.
things. So,
Yep.
she likes to do this thing where she goes out in the backyard and then not come back in. So that's always fun when it's like the last time going out for the evening. So, yeah, this is kind of a lot to deal with right now.
Yep. Tis life. Tis life.
Good
Good
morning, Gabe.
morning, Gabe. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Gabe, what are your goals this week? I'm curious. What do you got going on?
Ooh, yeah. How many more test streams are you going to be doing? Are
Yeah.
you seeing like a big difference when you're switching like tech stacks? Because I saw you were doing one stream with Ecamm, and then I think you're using different tech for other ones. So far, what's been the best tech for you? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. He's talked a little bit about tech stacks per platform too, and that there's a little bit of different
Oh,
ways to
interesting.
play with the
hmm
tech on the platform. So that's been interesting too. So for all us nerds out there, we want to know. Tell us
Yes.
the dirty deets.
It looks like
So
my neck is glowing.
I see it now. It's like
Yeah,
no, like under your shirt. It's coming up out from your neck.
exactly.
Like
My
like if you took your shirt off, you would be a Greek god just glowing. And that's how it looks like, just glowing, trying to get out.
That's it exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I wear mostly black t-shirts, because in a white t-shirt it like doesn't really dampen the glow enough.
Yeah.
Had 404 comments in an hour. Okay, so Gabe, is your mark of success how many comments you get during the live stream?
He does love engagement. So
Well, I think that's kind of the whole point of doing one of these things is for the engagement, right? Of capturing people and being able to play back to them in a live format. So,
yeah.
I think it's an interesting KPI. I had not really thought about that as like a thing to optimize around. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. And this I guess Ecamm's just a platform to allow you to
I think it's
stream
just Skype,
and
right?
produce,
I thought it
right?
was just for
So
Skype. They must have done
well, I
some.
know I originally started for that because I had to use Ecamm for Skype when was using Skype, but
Yep.
I think it's more than just Skype now. But
Interesting.
anyway, cool. So how was yesterday?
Man, not the nice peaceful day of planning and thinking that it normally is. It was just kind of like all over the place. Was doing some like emails and some outreach and stuff like that yesterday, and that just took longer than it needed to, just because I was choosing to make it harder, I guess. Uh, didn't get that CRM built yesterday, so I'm going to be doing that as soon as we're done here, because I need to get it over to the client. I did sit down and I figured out what my hello Molly.
Hello,
I
Molly.
love that. I'll engage. I did sit down
There's an
and kind
eye.
of rebuild my prospecting plan, because
Mm-hmm.
if we're getting busier, um, and so the goal is not to go back. So I need to find a way that I can operate at this speed and do it the right way. So my prospecting plan has changed a little bit. We can go over that. And then also I talked yesterday about needing to come up with a scope of work um, for this one project. And so I've also kind of wrote out my thinking about that and happy to go over it as well, because the whole point of this is to show everybody else kind of like what this stuff looks like and how you work through it. So last week, my prospecting, actually, sorry, do we want to jump into this now? Do you want to talk about anything else?
Molly, yes, Mr. Hill and I do this every weekday at least.
Every
I know, we're
weekday.
crazy. We're crazy.
Yeah.
So we're
Nobody wants
pretty.
to show up on Saturdays and Sundays, which is okay because we don't either.
No, we have other things that are of importance those days. So,
All the sleep.
Yes, that would be a very good one. Okay, so you're building a new kind of breakdown of how you prospect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the fact that, hey, I'm busy with client work. So you've got some new
Yes.
thoughts on that.
Yes.
Okay.
So the biggest part of this for me is being able to enjoy my work, because if it's just a grind, I'm not, while I'm a disciplined person, I can make myself do things. I can only do it for so long, right? So I need to be able to kind of modulate between different things. So last week, and I think the week before that, I forget, was to reach out to 5 people a day, right, and then do the follow-ups and everything. So I did that last week. What I'm going to do now, right, is, so here's the quick math on that. 25 a week is 100 per month, right? So if we're going to be in kind of like a non-growth mode, and I still want to do the majority of that, we're going to dial it back to about half. So as opposed to trying to hit 100 per month, I'm going to try to hit 50 or 48 as the math works out on this one. So I'm going to be reaching out to 12 people per week. I'm going to be doing that on Mondays, which is my planning day. So I can just kind of hit that space, do those reach outs. Wednesdays, I'm going to have a 60-minute follow-up to kind of check in on those things, send some follow-ups, and then a 30-minute block on Fridays to kind of do some wrap up, see if anything is close to meeting or not. And that's going to be kind of my Courtney Gumpleton's back, everybody. That's going to be my prospecting and outreach.
Okay.
And I was going to essentially change my lunch club calls, because I do consider my lunch club calls as well as my prospecting is like the same type of activity. But I'm not changing anything on lunch club because the calls are just fun. I do enjoy them. Like, it's probably not as direct prospecting as I would want. However, the conversation quality is really good, and lots of people make it over to Sherpa, the Slack community, which is another thing that I'm trying to grow. So yeah, they're good meetings, skill development, and they're fun. So I'm not changing anything for there. So that's kind of be my change starting next week, because my day of planning went out the window yesterday. So it was around all of this stuff, and then it'll go into effect starting next week.
So we actually had a conversation in your Sherpa community yesterday about our quick one about loading up your weeks. And does anybody do that? Jason had asked that, and I do particularly. It sounds like you're running with that as well. That was that conversation kind of a reminder, like, hey, maybe I can do it this way, or is that something you were thinking of already? Because the comment was, do you load up the middle of your week with like client work, and then the beginning of your end week make it lighter so that you can do planning or just less strenuous stuff?
Yeah. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are like very heavy days for me. And there's some weeks where like I get to like mid-afternoon on Thursday and I'm just like dragging, and I'm like, oh, and then I have to remind myself, hey, you don't really do a lot of calls on Fridays and no calls really on Mondays. So this is going to be just kind of the balance of that. That's awesome, Courtney. I'm really glad you've had good meetings on there. Some people don't have great meetings. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's all look at the draw, really.
I mean, yeah, right. And also you're targeting. There are ways to target in there. There are ways of like doing, being an asset to that platform, and then in response to that, you get actual like currency, and you can use that currency to spend it on the meetings you want. So as opposed to just however you get matched. Gabe, send me a DM. I have an invite for you, sir. I'll get you in there. Send me a message. I'd love to have
He's
you
a
in there.
red rope guy over there, so he can get you in.
Yeah. Red rope guy. I don't know that I would go that far, but
I mean, I'm just saying you should be, as much as you like promote Lunch Club being an awesome place to go meet people. You should be one of the people.
It is the best networking I've ever found, and I'd rather do lunch club calls than join a local networking group at this point, right? Like just the ability for explosive growth to my network is so much more.
Answer, yeah. Why do you prefer it that much more than local?
Well, this is going to sound weird because like local, how do I say this? man, I hate this label, but I can't think of another label. I'm like an infiltrator when it comes
Okay.
to these kinds of things, right? So if there's a community or pocket of people that I am interested in meeting, I will find a way to get in there, right? Like this is part of like the sales skill that people like admire in others and think that they don't have for themselves, right? Like I can always find potentially a tie-in to like a pocket of people. And so like a local networking group, my thinking is like I need to know one person in that networking group, and then through that person I can kind of network through them and do all the other stuff. So
Mhm.
joining a group and going through the hoops of like having to be present every week and having to do drive time and everything else like that for a group of people that I think I could probably do just as effectively by only having one connection kind of doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, definitely for sure. And then Courtney, totally agree. But this is
You're
also how
you're
I
absolutely
treat. This is how I treat local as well, though, because I'll go in without expectations. I think
yes.
what I was going to say, what I thought you were going to say, and what you kind of said, is efficiency. It's easier to take it
Yeah.
and kind of find a hole and then kind of rip the hole open through that one in
Yeah.
versus show up and it's just a wall and there's no holes. You just have to kind of like go, okay, well,
Yeah.
who do I need to meet? Plus you have to drive. Plus you have to be in person.
And
So just more
what
efficient.
like this sounds insane, but like how much time I used to spend driving around to like meetings at different like
That's
easily 10 to 15% of my week was just spent driving around from, well, this meeting's over here and then this meeting is over here. And
Oh,
I
per
like
meeting.
driving.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like, there were weeks where I'd have 10 meetings, right? So it's like, well, I'm going to go meet this person over here. I'm going to meet Courtney over here at this coffee shop. And then I'm meeting somebody else over here at this coffee shop because everyone has their preferences. And so,
Yeah.
we started to do that. And then I kind of made, I think it was Mondays, my meeting day. And I would just sit and brood, which is a local kind of like
Mhm.
coffee hotspot area, really, really decent food and good coffee. And I made friends with the server staff. So they would see me on like Mondays or Tuesdays and they would
Mhm.
just like keep bringing me coffee and every hour a fresh setup, right? So
Yep.
I'd be
Yep.
sitting there having my coffee. One person would come in, sit down, talk to them for a little bit, and be like, "Okay, cool, you got to go." The next person's here. They would get up and leave. The next person would come in. So I would do that on Mondays in this one restaurant because I tip well and I used to be a server, so I'm familiar with what
Yep.
it's like.
Yep.
And that was a huge boon of like extra time and like productivity and stuff like that. And now I don't have to even go to the restaurant, which is you know, there are
And so
downsides to it because you can't match a really great business chat over like a cup of coffee with like the chatter of the coffee shop around you and like the nice warm porcelain cup. Like there's greatness to it and I miss it as an event. I just don't
mhm.
need it to be my like main
Your life.
social outreach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if you haven't read The Referral of a Lifetime, John just described it to you. Because it was literally about a guy that went to a coffee shop once or twice a week and he sat there and everyone knew him and he tipped well and he was nice and everyone knew who he was and liked him. And he ran all his networking through that one table and everyone knew he was there and it tells you how to network essentially. But
Interesting.
yeah, it's one of those books that you said that you don't particularly like that writing style of a story and then they teach you something in the story.
I'm changing my
You've said
thoughts
that
on that,
recently.
right?
I know
Because
you've said that recently.
I am like there's potential that the next book takes on a narrative format because I think it would be interesting because like I like to
I love that
read.
you do that.
I love to read and I love stories and I'm a big fan of using stories and selling and everything. So yeah, like I do think that first one I read Built to Sell, right? And it's like in the narrative format and it kind of felt like one of those like sports books you read, when you're a kid, like Christopher what was that guy's name? Like Chris Jackson or something like that. And he wrote like all the baseball books that we read when we you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the documentarian guy that wrote, like, did the baseball for KERA, like the big long narrative thing?
No, no,
No,
this
okay.
guy. Like it was like a pulp thing, right? So like it was very formulaic. It was like the same thing. Kid moves, struggles in sports, figures it
I
out,
don't
becomes the
remember that.
hero kind of thing.
I don't know.
Every one of them, and yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Well,
it so
before,
it just felt like that. But
okay,
then I read Leadership and Self Deception, which is also told as a narrative and is
I love that book.
my number one suggested book to people. If you're in business or sales or leadership and you've not read this book, you're just doing yourself a disservice, in my
It's
opinion.
so good. It's so
So
good.
good.
I
Yeah.
I have 2 books in my trunk for networking, that if I happen to be having conversation with someone and they bring it up and I'm liking the vibe, I like the person, I'm like, you know what, I'd like to know this person better. I say, you know what, follow me out to my car when we leave. And Leadership and Self Deception is one of those books. I'm like, yeah, this helped change the way I look at life. I hope it does the same for you. Like, this is such a
I
good book.
love that. Good for you, man. You're
Yeah,
you're just carrying around a copy of this book to like give to others.
I have 5. I have
You
10
have
books in my trunk.
man.
5 and 5.
I love how prepared you are. That is.
Well, you know what? Yeah, let's do that, Courtney. That's a good one. That's a whole show.
That is a
That's
whole
actually a
show.
whole
Yeah.
week of shows, as much as me pondering.
That's true.
But we could do a little segment here. But no, I actually had that done to me one time, but when I was early in my career, and I was like, you know what? When I get older and wiser and richer, I'm going to do that for people. And I just never did it. And then finally, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, you know what? I work for myself. I'm doing it.
Interesting.
So
I have
baseball flex real quick. I had a friend of mine, a kid.
Whoa! Is that a Bo Jackson rookie card?
Bo Jackson rookie card.
Oh my god, man!
I got a buddy at. I teach the 8th graders at church, and I had a buddy. He plays baseball, and we talked baseball and talked shoes and stuff like that. And we had graduation Sunday. They, everyone's going into their next grade now. He's going to 9th grade, and he's like, "Hey, man!" And I lived in Kansas City. He used to live in Kansas City. He's like, "Hey, I got something for you." And so Sunday he shows up, and this 12-year-old kid hands me that. I was like, "Oh,
that's rad, man!
That was amazing." So it's right here now on my desk. It's a trophy of sorts now.
So I'm because I'm this guy. How much is that card worth?
Well, it's in mint condition, so depending on where you look, obviously, it's probably only worth like $60. He's got 3 or 4 more that are worth more because they're super, super rare, like Fleer Ultra, like really random sets that nobody kept. And that's his main line rookie card. Like, that's what everyone thinks of when they think of his rookie card. He's got some really wacky ones from like 85 or 86.
Okay.
Whereas this is like an 87.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So, but either way, he was my hero growing up. Bo Jackson was my hero.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So for Gabe, it does feel a little bit like Fight Club, but I think it's still invite only. You have to know someone to get in, which is cool because they when you go through the process of coming onto the platform, they kind of assign you like a rank based upon like your contact list, which kind of blew me away. I not really realized how big my network was until I logged into there, and they were like, "Well, hello there," and they assigned me a point total, and I just kind of assumed everyone got the same, and then some other friends of mine jumped on there, and they were significantly lower. So it's cool, right? When you can take something as nuanced and subjective as like a network and assign, a grading system to it. That's my jam, obviously, as a sales coach and sales process guy.
That's a true meritocracy, is like an app. Like if you're doing well, you're networking well, you've got a network, we're going to give you stuff, and so that you'll invite more people like you in.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Courtney, you said let's do a book recommendations. You start. Throw one out. Throw a book that you love.
Oh, yeah, that would be rad.
And Gabe, what's another one? What I know you said you read. So it looks like, Gabe, you listen to books, maybe more. I've seen you at several places say you do audiobooks. So what's another good book you've listened to recently?
What about Molly? Everyone just put your favorite business book in the chat.
Yep. I'm currently
I don't even drive around with my copies of my book in my trunk, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, you don't drive around. So
well, that's true. Yes, that is true. But if
you ever start doing that again, you absolutely should.
It was so funny because Melissa's worked at Half Price Books for 15 years before coming to work for me, and she would have these moments of the author coming up and selling like 3 boxes of their own book. So we're launching the book, and she goes, "Okay, cool. Like, how many do you want to buy?" And I was like, "Well, like in the first set for myself, let's do 15." And she goes, "Oh, are you sure that's a good idea?" Because she's having these flashbacks and everything. And I was like, "What's your concern?" And she's like, "Well, that we want to actually get through these, and you're going to end up having a lot of them." And I was like, "No concerns.
15.
Let's get to 15." Yeah. 15 was not a lot,
150?
and
Yes.
yeah, and even then, I wouldn't be concerned because I sign them, I give them away, right? One of the things that I do is I share the PDF with people, and if they like it a lot and are willing to leave me a review, I will then send them a signed copy for their own records and stuff. So it's a way for me to do that stuff. But I think we've gone through about 5 or 6 stacks of 15 at this point, so it's
Nice.
okay.
Yeah, Courtney,
I
you
have
speak my
never
language.
read, I've never read a Seth Godin book ever in my entire life.
What?
Isn't that
You
crazy
didn't
to
tell
think
me
about?
that?
Yeah.
Holy cow. So
Yeah,
Seth Godin's like my dude too, and you know
I think I
that. He's
tried to
like
read
my dude.
Tribes and was just bored to tears and was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
I
and
definitely think you should
I know
start
these guys are
World
not the
Supplement.
same thing, but in my head, Gladwell and Godin are like the same
Oh.
person, and
Oh.
they're not. They're obviously not, right?
Oh no.
Especially not after Mr. Gladwell made some incredibly dense statements about work from home and working remote last week. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah.
I described him yesterday on social media because there's a bunch of posts on LinkedIn about that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the comment sections, I said that hyperbole is his drug of choice, and he's just laying it on thick. That's really what he's doing here.
Yeah. I
He
mean,
loves that.
the whole 10,000 hours thing, right, was
Right?
a blatant kind of repurpose from a guy named Anders Ericsson, and Anders felt like he was so misquoted, he actually went out and wrote his own book to like try to
Yes.
set the record straight,
Yeah.
and essentially the statement is, yeah, it takes 10,000 hours if you're not intentional with how you do your practice, but
Correct.
if you're intentional with how you do your practice, you build in flow states, you work with a coach, you do these different things, it's not 10,000 hours. You can have huge portions of that thing shaved off and have a complete skill set in less than that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
He was much more saying just like the average random person, it will take 10,000 hours to get to a level that you would consider mastery versus someone who's actually focusing. So,
mhm.
and even peak performance, the Steve Magnum book that's been out. Now he's got another one out called Do Hard Things that just came out.
I've not
Yeah,
read
he
either one of
kind of
those.
debunks that too. So, yeah, so the
Yeah.
12-week year, Gabe, John and I didn't, we actually went through some of this together at
Yep,
one
we
point.
did. Yeah, a lot of the bill thinking and bill method is from the
Mhm.
12-week year because and honestly, that's why we do this show daily, right? Because
Yeah,
people drastically overestimate what they can get done in like a lifetime or even like 5 years, right? And then they
yeah, yeah,
drastically underestimate what they can get done in a week.
right, exactly.
So,
It's flip thinking.
yep.
So okay, so what's on your plate right now? What do you? Okay, well, let's do one book and then let's talk about today. What is there a book you're reading right now?
Let's see. What am I reading right now? I'm not reading a business book right now. I'm reading Musashi right now. So there's two versions of Musashi. There's the Book of the Five Rings, which is like his philosophy and everything. And then because I'm me, I'm like, well, I need to read more about this guy. So I'm reading like the 1,000-page epic. It's like the Gone with the Wind version. So it's a little bit dramatized and everything. There's a bunch of like really good tangential like historical information about the Tokugawas and the shoguns during that time and everything. So it's helping reinforce the learnings of the Five Rings, which is cool. And then I actually got a book recommendation at lunch yesterday that I'm very excited about because my friend Ryan, thanks Ryan, if you're watching this, you're probably not, for the help yesterday. New client in the finance industry. I needed to go get some outside perspective, and he was able to do that and get me an introduction to his treasury management officer. So we get to have a real conversation and get deep around it, which is cool. He recommended a cool science fiction fantasy book called. Hold on one second. I'm so intrigued by the name. I want to look it up because I don't want to get it wrong. The Three Body Problem.
The what?
The Three Body Problem is what this book
Okay.
is called, and yeah, it looks pretty interesting. I'm excited to check it out. So
Cool.
that'll be my next nonfiction read. The next business book I'm supposed to read is Gap Selling by Keenan. I don't really like Keenan's content. I don't enjoy his personality whenever I see his videos and everything. He's very much that old school sales D, kind of person.
Yes.
So I've heard that the book is really good though. So I need to kind of work my way through that. And yeah, it's kind of it. Not reading anything
What
super great right now.
what's the one? Pitch Anything. Have you read that?
Yeah.
Crashing
Yeah.
Framework. That's what it is. Is it?
Yeah, it's mostly like the 30-second breakdown of that book is work on your framing, work on your reframing. Don't get emotional in conversations when you don't need to be it, and that's essentially what we do all day in Sales Practice Lab, right? Why should I work from you? Well, have we even figured out what that work would look like yet? Should
Right.
we talk about that first? It's just that kind of stuff, right? So it's kind of like I think of it as kind of an adaptation of like the Challenger sale, for like individuals, because I don't really think that the
Okay.
Challenger sale is for like individual salespeople.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Well, it's been a long time since I read that one. That came to mind. And then, so I'm rereading Deep Work by Cal Newport. Is the book I'm in
Yeah.
right now. And I'm taking my time through it. And then
Any nuggets on the second read that you didn't get from the first one?
nothing new yet, but I'm not that far in, to be honest. I'm only maybe 75 pages in.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I've really just kind of
You,
got past
you,
the intro and the.
yeah, you're still doing the "this is why you should trust me" kind of section of the
Yeah,
book.
yeah. I
Yeah.
haven't jumped back into like, okay, so here's how you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
The classic. Here's why you should trust me. Here's why this is important that you do, and here I'm going to prove it. And then, okay, now I'm going to show you how to do it. That's
Yeah.
in case you don't know, that is a pretty
Yeah.
standard book model. So if you actually really already like the subject, a trick you can do is you can find that halfway point, because most books now will even say part 1 and part 2,
Yep.
because they've just flat out done this as part 1.
Yep.
Just skip right to part 2 and figure out how to do it. If you already go, yes, this is a thing, I need it. So you don't have to read all that front stuff if you don't need to.
Yeah, but there is something to be said, right? Because I used to be that guy, man. Like 75% of these books is just like bragging about why I should listen to you. But there's like, it's deeper than that, honestly.
Oh, sure.
Like it's kind of like when you hit the sales page, it's at that long page with all the content and all the text, and you're like, oh my god, it's like, where's the price? But you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, like, and just by all of that scroll, oh, there is something here. Then you get to the testimonials, and you're like, I don't even want to watch these things because I'm not even sure if this makes sense. But when there's 50 of them,
yeah,
it's doing something on a level you're not even aware of.
for sure.
Right.
And the whole, I like reading, honestly, all the stuff beforehand. Nobody doesn't bother me.
Now.
Because, and especially when it's like this peak performance book I just read book, it's sharing the science. It's saying this is what your body does in response to this, and this is how society has changed their thinking on this, and here's how priorities have changed, and this is why it's so important now that we understand this. It's stress plus rest, like stuff like that, and that's good. To me, it would be like having a sales conversation without framing. You need the framing.
It'd be a nightmare. Yeah,
right.
That's a nightmare situation.
The framing to get anywhere. Otherwise, you're just tossing information. So,
and I've also, man, Courtney, I'm just letting you down all over the place. I've never read a Stephen Covey book.
I mean, I guess I'm not surprised by that. He seems a little probably too like, gee, gosh, golly, for you.
Yeah, he seems like the one who's just like pitching motivation, right? And I'm not a huge fan of those books that are just like motivation, because motivation without discipline falls apart, right? We see this all the time because of all the people who go to seminars and then they come back on fire, and then 2 weeks later they're back in all their own habits and things. Yeah. But before we go, we talked about one thing yesterday that I was kind of stuck on, and I'm going to show my kind of thinking and math kind of behind it, and that's what this other little portion is down here.
Yeah, let's do it. Because today I just have meetings, so there you go.
So one of these projects is potentially me taking some calls for people, right, for this one client of mine to test the process and test the questions and the assumptions and everything. And so the scope for that project is a number of calls with qualified prospects. And so the way that where I get stuck with this is like, if I need to go source those meetings on myself, right, which is sometimes part of the role, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes they have marketing or other things going on, and there's already leads for me to go talk to. So my math for this, right, is like the base rate of if I don't have to prospect, right? If there's already existing clients, lead lists and stuff like that I can have access to and just do my work and my calling from there, that's the base rate. If I have to go prospect and go get it, the math I came up with, the base rate times 3, right? Because it's at least 3 times as difficult to have to go out and get the own meetings, because the thing is with qualified prospects, right? So in both of these buckets that we're looking to have conversations with, there are certain things that indicates that they actually fit in that bucket, a certain amount of spend, a certain team size, different things like that. So it's not like I can just go find anybody who fits the label and the conversation is going to be considered qualified, because that's not how this works, right? So we're trying to find people who fit this avatar that we've come up with, right, in the ICP. And so if I have to go find those people manually, it's at least 3 times as hard of an effort as if they're just giving to me, right? So it was kind of my thinking around that. And I talked to a friend of mine, Whitlock, who's another sales nerd, and was like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this?" And he was like, "I think you're doing them a favor and not charging enough." So that was nice. But yeah, that was just kind of my thinking about that. Huh?
Yeah. I said Whitlock would say that. That's good for him.
Whitlock would say that. Yeah, that's kind of his universal answer.
Yeah,
charging enough for that.
Yep, that's why I like him.
Me too.
Not the only reason, but
yeah.
Cool.
So
okay, well that's good. Thanks for showing us that. That's gets me thinking about from a value standpoint. It was a conversation I was having with myself. I was like, I'm charging money for my time, and I'm probably still not charging enough. But what if I charged equity? Because there's a huge payoff for that, essentially, potentially. So
I think that's going to be kind of interesting, right? Like I think you're going to slam into some brick walls of cognition, right? Because you'll have people like my standing kind of agreement is anybody who's like super ready to give me equity probably isn't going to get to the place that like I'm ever going to cash in on it because I've been there before. And then the people who I want equity from are never going to bring it up in a conversation as an offer because they actually understand what they have. And so then it's on me to go do the uncomfortable part of like, hey, should we just do this for like equity, kind of situation. So that took me a long time to figure out.
Yes, for sure. And I've got 2 conversations right now where I'm going to have opportunity to bring it up. It's moving that way. So I'm looking forward to hitting that wall. See what happens. Learn a little bit.
It was required reading. Courtney, where was it required reading at? Tech Fort Worth?
That would make sense. Speed of Trust at Tech Fort Worth. Yeah, that would make sense. Because, I mean, they're really a community down there. They're trying to make themselves, they already are. They're part of Fort Worth's fabric down there. So
and Hayden's a big reader, I believe, as well, and he's the executive director. So and he's very much the kind of guy who would be like, "Okay, great, here's your homework assignment," and that kind of stuff.
Sure. He's like with my job, I had to read 8 books. This one I just onboarded. So if you have a culture of self
coaching and improvement,
and growth and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Okay, well, gotta get headed to my next stuff.
Yes, sir.
Anything else today we need to talk about?
Rising Tide cohort. I think I've heard of Rising Tide. I didn't know that they did cohorts.
I've heard Rising Tide. Cool. Well, Gabe, thanks for coming in today. Molly, good to see you again. Thanks for engaging. Courtney, awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah, y'all are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us. Friday, we're gonna have a guest, and we're gonna start doing events for the Friday shows on the platforms that you're seeing this thing on. So this Friday, we're having a guy, T-Lock, as he's affectionately known. He runs a very cool community of people, and he helps other people set that stuff up. And he's going to be here Friday. So you have a link for the invite? Can you just drop that in there, Jake? Or we'll do that maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow when I'm more prepared.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll drop that in there tomorrow. But Fridays are our days with guests. So if you're only going to hang out with us one day of the week, please make sure that week is Friday. We're going to have sales leaders, content creators, and just anybody else who we think is interesting. So yeah.
Yep. So hop in there. I'm always going to prompt questions in those events. So I've already got a question up for that event. That says, "Hey, what should we ask this guy, Travis Lackner? What do you want to know about entertainment and content?" So get in there, put some questions in, so you can be involved with the interview as well, and then we will see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you, Courtney. Very nice of you.
See you, Bill.